coming up this curvy little 2-lane highway, sliding around this curve right here. But I'm headed out on an adventure, I would call it today. I love to go to a place that's new, and I also love to fish a river, and that's exactly what I'm doing today. It's totally new. So this deal here, I want to show you a few different things that I look for on a river. It's early August, it's summertime. The fish are for sure in a summertime type pattern, but I want to go to a place that's new and really try to break it down and show you just exactly what you go to look for. You know, I spend a lot of time on a lot of these rivers here in East Tennessee, the Holst and the French Broad, and I know them well, so I can just drive to places from history for the time of year, for what the water level is, and say I'm going to catch a fish right there because I've done it before. I don't have to really think about it. I can take this bait, I can go to this spot, and I'm going to catch fish on it. But this is a new body of water for me, so there'll be some challenges. There'll be some stuff that I'll have to learn between learning to navigate on this water and, you know, the research I've done on Google Earth, what I'll continue to do today. But it'll be a new experience, a new place for me, and I just hope there's some bass here. I've never been here before. I've seen pictures, seen some video clips and stuff that, you know, that there are some good smallmouth, especially in this river, and, you know, so I'm excited to go to someplace new and definitely give it a check. As far as, I guess, if you'd say if I had any expectations on the day as to what I would be happy with, I feel like we're probably going to spend 6 or 8 hours out here fishing. You know, I think a good day, a good number of bites in that would be probably 20. I would feel like would be a good number of bites. You know, just not knowing the numbers that are here. If I had 20 bass bites, I would think that would be pretty solid. If I got a couple fish up into that 17 to 19 inch range, I think that would be pretty good. You know, just again, not knowing the quality of fish that are in this system, if I got some fish that were up into that 17 to 19 inch range, I would feel like that would be pretty good for this fishery. It's not a real big river. It's the Clinch River. It's the upper end of the Clinch River. Headwaters, what flows into Norris Lake. But looking at it on Google Earth, the average flow for this time of the year up here is about 500 cubic feet per second. And the river looks to be, I don't know, average maybe 20 or 30 yards wide in most places. So, you know, those are things I look at to judge how big a body of water is, how wide the river is, and then that average flow, that cubic feet per second flow. So, but that's, you know, an 18-inch fish in a body of water like that, 20 fish in a day, those would be my goals, I guess, and feel like I'd had a successful day at that point. I was thinking it's going to be right on the other side of the river, but that sign been on this side. But you think it'd be here because of that? I guess that's the old bridge. Man, it's muddy, but it's not. The ramp I'm thinking, I believe, is right down here. I just want to go up here and see if there's a gas station in this little. Generally speaking, when you've got a system that's dirty, you know, unless you've got a big set of shoals. So the way a river works, your tributaries that come in, are going to be what dirties the water first, but it's also going to be what clears the water first, or where the water clears first. We passed a little small stream coming in that was very clear and had a decent amount of water coming in. Those will be the first places that clean. The other part on a river is, I don't know if this river's got much grass in it or not, but if a river has, there's the boat ramp. If a river has a lot of grass on the shoals and stuff, or even just long rocky shoals, those places will filter the water. So I've seen it before where the water be fairly dirty. You drop down below a big set of shoals, and that water will clean up a lot. So that's kind of what you look for on a river system, either the tributaries, and then you can, maybe there'll be dirty tributaries, you can get above those and the water will be clearer too. So those are kind of the things you want to look for. Either those tributaries will be dumping in cleaner, or you can get above them and get to where the water is a little bit clearer. I want to show you something right here. I actually just noticed this sign. So online, what I was looking at, those USGS water stations, I've fished a lot of rivers and see one occasionally, but this is actually the one I was checking last night, is here at this boat ramp. So just look at that sign and take a peek at it. But that's really, really valuable information for anybody, but especially a river fisherman. That USGS site has a lot of great info on it. This ain't a boat ramp. When I called the lady the other day, I said, is that a boat ramp right there? Yeah, it's just right up the road. I said, can you get a 17-foot John boat in there? Yeah, it's got some little steps and stuff. You should be fine. It literally is a set of steps. It's a kayak takeout. So I think we're probably going to Sneedville. I've put into some rough places before, but I've never put in one like that. I mean, maybe in theory you get the boat, you put the trailer down a couple sets, unhook it, and well, I think we could get it in the water, but getting it back out would be. This is a kayak. This is a bona fide, very nice kayak takeout. This is not a boat ramp. Adventure continues. Clinch River Market. It's not any clearer, is it? Look, there's even a sign that says boat ramp. It's got to be a boat ramp. It even looks like a boat ramp on Google Earth. And I've driven by it before and saw that it was a boat ramp. I have multiple reasons to believe there's a boat ramp here. Paved boat ramp. Hey, and a muddy river. But we're here finally, wherever here is. I am a little disappointed that the river is still as dirty as it is. We had a little shower last night, but I didn't think it would have been enough to muddy it back up. But it's been 3 or 4 days since we really had a major rain. I don't know this body of water though, like the upper end of Douglas, upper end of Cherokee, Holston there behind the house. Those places, I know how long they take to clear. I know how quick they get muddy. I've just fished them enough. When you go somewhere new, somewhere different, you want to kind of assume it's similar, but until you get some experience on it, you just don't know. And that is what I lack here, is experience. So I'll have more after today. That's a guarantee. And it looks muddy, but when you get close, I don't really think it's that bad. We get the sun up a little bit, and I bet you it clears throughout the day. That's one thing with these places, especially a smaller, more headwater river. They'll change pretty drastically in 6 or 8 hours time. So it's falling. It should continue to fall, and hopefully that means it'll clear some throughout the day. But it could be great like this. We're gonna find out. I definitely like to stand up in these places, especially when it's through to me. I mean, I'm running about 25 miles an hour. Got this console and stuff, so I can, I can sit on the leg or something. I feel safe doing this, but being up high, I get a lot better view, a lot better read on what's going on up here. When I know a river, I sit down and run it the whole time, but having a higher level point of view, man, it just allows me to read these shoals better as I come up on them, especially on the place that's new to me. Whole section I've just ran through, the last half a mile, 3/4 of a mile, was really fishy. A lot of good shoals, some good ripples in them. Get just past this little neck down and stop, float back through a lot of it. Primarily floating backwards, at least to start with. But there it is.
That was like as good a cast as some people make in their whole life.
It's like to have my depth finder on because you don't know, in this river I don't know how to read the water to tell exactly how deep it is. I'm just not knowledgeable on this water yet. Yeah, it's 6 foot deep here. I would not have guessed that. That's too, I expect there to be largemouth, and I know there's smallmouth in here, but I expect there to be largemouth as well. And they may live in the same exact places, and they may live in a little different areas. Like, if I got a bite here, I would mostly expect it to be a largemouth, but I just don't know. Is there a lot of them in here? Are there a few of them? There was a lot of bait. Are there a lot of big ones, or are there a lot of small ones? I don't know. This looks like a place you could catch a 5-pound largemouth. Throw a little bit faster moving stuff, spinner baits, bladed jigs, square bills, that kind of thing, until I at least figure out what's in here. A little bit about what they like as far as, what kind of cover they're gonna be in. That little eddy there, I really would have thought that'd have been a bite. Under normal clarity situations, you'd be seeing the bottom pretty good, and I would just always be kind of ready to hit a rock anytime down through here. Is that a walnut tree? Is that what those are? Those walnuts? With it being so dirty, I can't see the little subtle depressions and stuff. They give you a good indication where the fish are typically at. They like you get in these shoals, places that are just a little bit deeper. So I'm having to fish kind of, if that was a bite or if I hit something. I'm having to fish like everything. I can't believe how much bait I've seen I've not had a bite yet. Maybe I'm fishing too much largemouth throwing them at the bank. That was a bite for sure. Could have ran into a carp, but it definitely made contact with a fish. With it being higher and dirtier, one thing that's typically going to lower the number of bites you're going to get some, but it may increase the size. Anytime you've got increased flow, you typically deal with fewer bites, but sometimes better quality on average. Yeah, definitely be ready to make bottom contact down through here. Man, this looks so good. I don't know if I'm just not throwing the right bait yet, or if I'm not targeting the right areas, what it is, but she's like, what is that? I've had that look before. Been in a boat in places that people are like, I ain't never seen a boat there before. Certainly not a boat that big. Bait just flipped right there in that eddy too. Bait, as soon as it hit the water, bait there again. But when I switched this motor out, I added 100 pounds of motor, plus then we put those pods on. But even with 100, there's a bite. Hey, smallmouth. That is my first upper Clinch River bass right here. This little feller. And he went right back in the water. Just that quick. But I caught one. Kind of just surprised me about halfway out. Little smallmouth on a bladed jig. I thought I'd had another bite or two up through there, but that fish told me that there are bass in here. It was a smallmouth. I mean, I am in a shallow area. He wasn't right on a shoal or anything, but I'm just in a shallow, faster area. He bit it halfway out. He could have followed it a ways. That could have been where he was sitting. But it just at least tells me that there are bass in here and that they will bite a bladed jig. So I'm just gonna not think too much more into it yet, but just confirmation of life more than anything. There any bass, any smallmouth much in this river?
Right down over here
Is it? There's what? Is there trout too? Yeah?
there's a creek on this side of the river, right down here it feeds in,
Okay.
a little ways up,
Yeah?
and they stock that creek beginning of spring.
Okay.
I'm gonna get the creek.
Yeah.
Sometimes Jim will come out the creek and place the fish, they're gonna mouth that creek.
Gotcha. It's on up on the right?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll give it a try.
Right on.
That was a little nibble. Felt really small though. I wonder if that's a little bit of my problem if what I'm throwing is a little big. Got one. Oh, 2-minute penalty. But it's a little smallmouth on a bottom crawl. Be still, buddy. Just come up here, got a hot tip from a guy down the creek that was camping out with his kids and stuff it looked like. He mentioned a creek that was up here flowing in, and it's actually a little bit cleaner water dumping in out of this little creek. Caught that little guy right out of the mouth of it. Pretty little smallmouth. That was on the little bomb crawl on the rugby head. That bladed jig, it's small, but who knows, it could be a little oversized for a lot of these fish. It won't be for all of them, but I just don't know what lives in here yet. I'm just still trying to learn what the average fish is on the Clinch River. Got us a hot tip on a creek mouth. Creek mouths are kind of the #1 staple in any river I've ever fished anywhere in the country. Go to a creek mouth. It almost doesn't matter the time of year. Creek mouths always hold fish. That was another bite. Saw a little bit of bait swirl around over here near this point. Almost like something was kind of chasing them. There's definitely not a lot of water flowing out of this creek, because you can see that, I mean, this is very green, very clear, but there's not like a clear wash of water going down this shoreline. It dirties up right fast. So it's not like there's a ton of water coming out of here, but there is a little bit. Yeah, you can see the bottom really good. come off. It's 3 or 4 bites I've had here, 2 fish I've hooked. It's really pretty water. There's a big sucker. Swim out there. Up there's the end of the road, JD. Yep, unless we get a running start. I still don't think we'd make it much further. That should be some cool looking stuff there though. Just all those rocks and the sun and the shadows will look pretty neat. Smallmouth here torturing these minnows. Oh, what is that? There was I'm 99% sure, I just caught a little smallmouth, but I'm 99% sure I just saw a small muskie. About 16 inches long, maybe. 99% sure that's what that was. Or it was a trout. I guess it could have been a trout. But I really think it was a muskie. There's one. Just come out of that creek. Anytime you're around a creek, above it or below it is always going to be, you know, everybody wants to fish the mouth of it, and that's always a good spot, but above them and below them both typically are good. You know, a tributary like that, those bass can pull in there in the springtime and spawn in it. Well, once they disperse back out in the summer, they're not going to go too terribly far most times, especially if there's shoals and everything else they need right there around. They're just going to go to the first thing they need. So the areas around those creek mouths are always worth fishing, not just the mouth itself. There's some bigger ones in here. We just got to get it in front of one. Oh, I had one. I don't think he was large, but it was a bite. Water's just barely clean enough. I could see catching one on a top water of some sort. Oh, there's a red eye chased it in. That could have been what that was that bit me. Should ask him what the bass's address is. Hey, where's the bass get their mail at around here? Nah, we could go further, but that's as far as we're gonna go. You can see evidence of flooding and how high the water's been. Saw it coming up and down the river. It's like on that barbed wire fence where stuff is out up in the trees. And some of the houses and stuff we passed coming up through there that were built on stilts and docks up on stilts. Definitely evident that this river floods not just a little, but a lot at times. And I feel like some of those rivers that flood that drastically, it can definitely hurt the population. You know, I think of a place like Douglas, upper end of Douglas, it's so good where one opens multiple times and stuff, but it's connected to the lake. So you've kind of got the security of the lake with the benefit of the river. And I think that's part of why it's so good. Upper end of Cherokee's similar way. Some of these just headwater rivers, and those fish have to deal with drastic floods. You know, they may go 2 or 3 years without getting a really good spawn. So maybe I was a little eager on how good I thought that this would be up here. There's a little bite. Red eye. Right out of some water willow. I was hoping for a largemouth. That's why they call him a red eye. His eyes are red. Been on a bender all night. Still eating crawdads this morning. I mean, it's 11 feet here in those giant rocks. That is just perfect. This looks really fishy. I've said that more than once today, but I meant it every time. We've got some pretty good water rippling sounds going on right here, but this is a really nice, really well-defined shoal. It's actually got a couple layers to it. You can see that next little drop-off layer up there, but we've come upriver a long ways from where we put in at. Been through several sets of shoals. A lot of them I've not even fished yet. And just kind of a midday update, honestly, at this point. Been pretty slow. I've caught a few around one little creek mouth. I actually caught the best fish that I've caught here, but honestly kind of slow overall. As far as a shoal like this, when you come up to it, this one here, just having these layers and stuff, I stopped here below it, wanted to really pick apart this bottom end. It's got a good drop, nice eddies, a couple little grassy islands and stuff blocking the current good, and the decent fish I caught was out of that particular eddy. But you know, when you come up to a place like this, you got to really pick it all apart. The fish I caught was in a little faster current than what I would have expected. He was just out there in a little bit more of that flow. But yeah, come up to the bottom end of these if you can. You know, I've got a 36 volt Ultrex on here. I'm able, you know, with the lithium power that I've got, I'm able to really fight into this current hard. and that makes it nice. When you have to drift through this stuff, it's the way you got to do sometimes, especially when it's really shallow. But if I'm able to fish into the current, I can just control my boat so much better and sit on these type of places and really pick every little seam apart, try to catch as many fish as I can off of them. Especially that thing that hits the water and start reeling and go whoosh. Yep. Like that. Big smallmouth. That was exactly what I was just saying should happen. I'm just gonna get him on in here. I almost called that. Dude, he crushed it. I thought he was twice that big, but that was a sweetheart of a bite. Let me get you off the hook here, buddy. Yeah, that was a sweet heart of a bite. I just made the comment. I'm like, man, that thing should hit the water, start turning the reel handle, one just smoke it, and that is exactly what that fish did. Right up behind the little stick there on that top water. Man, what a chunk. That's the kind of fish I've been looking for all day. I really felt like I was running across a few of these. Man, it just took a while. That's a good sign. I've got a lot of shoals left to cover. The water has definitely dropped a little bit and it's clearing some. So maybe this top water is going to be a good change and catch some more quality fish on the way back. That fish bit between that stick and the bank, and you can see there's definitely a little slack spot. We've got faster water. You can tell from this foam out here that's moving in, but just a nice little calm spot there. Decent depth. I'm sitting in 4 or so feet of water, but just a good little eddy right there on that hard shoreline. But I'm like, it doesn't really matter to me as long as it's a bass. It bites and pulls and grows. Almost feels like a September kind of day. He was right out below this shoal, down fairly deep, honestly. Come off. He was in that big eddy there. Definitely seeing some more activity. I don't know if it's the water's clear and time of day, or if we're just in a good stretch of river. Just in a fishy stretch. Certainly getting a few more bites. This last little one on the bottom crawl was out. Oh, there was a bite. Didn't hold on to it. Little nibble. Out behind this big eddy. Oh, he still had it. Dang. Man, that almost felt decent. I'd felt it hit it, and then I was just keeping the slack out of my line, but he had it and was way down through here with it. Man, I caught that good one on top, but I think all in all, they're not wanting to chase. It's like they want something slow. For me, it's hard to comprehend with the water being so dirty. Water being dirty makes me want to throw a spinner bait or crank bait or whatever. Yeah, this has been far from an action-packed trip. But even given that, I've had nearly a dozen bites, ain't I? I'm telling you, if that water was clean, we'd be catching a fire out of those little fellas like that. We'd probably catching more better ones too. The way this little river's set up, there's a lot of fish in here. I do believe that, but these conditions are just not helping. You got to hit them on the head with it, and they're not wanting. It's warm, it's summertime, they're not wanting to really chase. So you got to kind of hit them on the head with a piece of plastic to get them to bite best, which is fine. But if the water was cleaner, they could see it a lot further. And you could see them some. You could see them swimming around, cruising around and stuff, and make a good cast to them and catch them. For the most part, in the summertime, I like the water to be fairly clean. Springtime and fall, I don't mind it to be dirty, but summer, I do typically like clean water in a river. Especially primarily a smallmouth river. If it's a lot of largemouth, dirty water's fine. They're gonna be in the cover anyway. But when you're dealing with mostly smallmouth, clear is better. Just make sure. It's 2:30. This is the first time I've been out of the boat today, so that's kind of a raving success, to be honest. I could have ran through there. The problem was I was trying to float through it. Can't tell where that rock is. I feel like Keith Poche. Well, he's always, on his little YouTube series, he's always out of the boat pushing it somewhere. Yeah. No. Yeah, just be ready out there as we may. There we go. Big old thread fin. Yeehaw. That was definitely what I would call an adventure. I mean, the way it started off, where I thought was a boat ramp, was not. Maybe that was actually a sign of just go where you know there's a boat ramp. But well, I didn't take it as such. I just went ahead and powered on and come back down to where I knew there was a boat ramp and put in and went from there. The good thing is nothing was tore up, nothing was broke, nothing was lost. Did not catch all that many fish, and I'm going to blame that some on definitely on the water conditions. It was pretty dirty, all in all, and I'm going to blame a lot of that on that dirty water. I actually got to pull over here. My push pole is about to come out, so let me just. The adventure actually continues. Yeah, I could still lose something. My push pole is hanging loose. I didn't have it in my Trailblazer mount back here real good, which gives me an excuse to get water. And I gotta put my hat back on. You don't want to see all this quarantine hair. It's some kind of a mess. Okay, push pole is in the Trailblazer mount now. Everything is secured and my hair's covered up. Back onto the curvy road we go. I even got some chocolate to eat. Yeah, so didn't catch all that many fish, honestly. Did catch one, what I would consider a pretty nice fish for the body of water we were on. Probably a 17, maybe 17 and a half inch smallmouth on top water. But it really seemed like when I got my bait around fish, the fish were fairly aggressive. I don't think that they were hard to get to bite, but they weren't, for one, they weren't just everywhere. And two, that dirty water was really hurting their ability to see. And smallmouth, whether you're in a shallow river in the south, you're in a lake down here, or you're up north on one of the Great Lakes, smallmouth, man, they're visual feeders, and they're used to that water, especially this time of year, being a little lower and being a lot clearer. I mean, you can look at it on Google Earth, and it is a lot of places really, really, really clear. It absolutely will get dirtied up, but what I've seen in times in rivers like that is those fish will just wait, similar to what fish in Florida will do during a cold front in the wintertime. Those fish will just wait, just kind of hang out and wait on better conditions. They're going to feed just enough to get by, but they're not going to feed really aggressively until they get the conditions they want. So I think that had a lot to do with it. If you look at the day as a whole, I'm not going to say I'll never come back to the upper Clinch, but if I do, it will certainly be when the water is lower. I'll make sure that the water's clear, make sure that it's a little bit more stable, and maybe I'll fish a different section. Maybe I'll put in at that ramp and actually go down instead of going up. But there was some really, really pretty water, some really pretty shoals that I fished through. So I can't say I'll never come back, but I'm not coming back tomorrow. I do know that for sure. As far as what seemed to be the most productive, a Bass Pro bomb crawl on a 3/16 VMC rugby head was probably my most productive. Something I could get in an eddy or get behind a rock on a shoal or something and get a bite with more times than not. But I caught one okay fish on it. But that was probably the easiest thing I had to get a bite on. Had a couple bites on a wacky rig. Did have some bites on top water. The best fish I caught was on top water. Never caught a fish on a square bill crankbait, which really surprised me. Didn't catch but just a couple on a 1/4 ounce bladed jig, which also surprised me. I really would have thought in that colored water that a 1/4 ounce bladed jig would have been really good, but it was not. So that was probably the biggest surprise on the day, was that little bladed jig wasn't any better than it was. So, man, all in all, a fairly slow day in the water. When we pulled up there at the ramp, I initially said I'd be pretty happy with 20 bites. When I actually saw the water and how dirty it was, I made the comment that I would be okay with like a dozen bites, and I had more bites than that. I probably only landed, I don't know, maybe 8, maybe 10, but somewhere in that range. But I bet you I had maybe 15 bites. So the number of bites I had was about, I guess, on par for what I was thinking. But just one of those kind of deals you never got it figured out enough to where how I like it to be in a river where I know where my next bite's going to come from. I was never in that situation today for sure. As with all the videos here on the channel, I definitely appreciate you watching. Be sure, if you're not already subscribed, be sure to subscribe and leave a comment down below. Try to do a pretty good job answering those, but definitely let me know if there's anything you want to see. Boat walkthrough, I know that's one I've got asked for a lot. Any type of fishing trip, anything like that, information that you're wanting to know, definitely leave me a message below. But be sure to like it and subscribe and hit the bell. That's what all the cool kids say. Hit the bell and turn on your notifications.